Oke, satu ketan ditambah ragi. Ayo, butuh cakepnya yang lebih semangat ya, sekali lagi ya. Satu ketan ditambah ragi. Oke, jadikan tape untuk semua. Hadirin sekalian, selamat pagi. Semoga selalu sehat dan bahagia. Oke, tepuk tangan dong. Nah, jadi tetap semangat ya Bapak Ibu ya. Baik, seperti tadi yang sudah saya informasikan, topik kita yaitu Decolonializing Language Documentation in Indonesia. This talk provides a critical discussion on the impact of colonialism on language endangerment, as well as its perpetuation, which continues to influence language documentation in Indonesia. It calls for a reconsideration of the most effective approach to documenting languages in Indonesia with decolonizing values at the forefront. Ya, sepertinya ini topiknya masih cukup jarang ya Bapak Ibu, jadi kita simak bersama dari penjelasan Ibu Heronisa. Silakan.
My screen. Sorry, there's a problem. Bentar ya Bapak Ibu, grogi. You see my screen? Is my screen on now? Moderatornya juga. Alright, I wanna see my face here. Okay, ya, aman ya. Alright, thank you for having me. Let me just time myself. Ya, terima kasih kesempatannya. Let me begin with, let's not forget what this conference is for. It is to celebrate mother tongue's diversity, right? This is for mother tongue celebration. So first I want to acknowledge my own mother tongue, Sasak. Yeah, I speak Sasak. It's a minority language spoken, you know where? Lombok, yeah? Yeah, I was raised bilingual and I acquired Sasak sequentially. Anyway, why do I come with this topic? Yeah, just like what the moderator said, that, but actually my somebody has to talk about this, and then we already have on the posters, yeah, so many speakers, keynote speakers here with expertise on language documentation, but somebody has to talk about what's going on in the world of language documentation. One of it is decolonizing issue, yeah, so that's why I came up with this topic. Yeah, so my talk ini saya mostly in English, nanti campur-campur juga ya. Looking at the audiences, we have more Indonesians, but also we have foreigners as well. I'll be talking about colonialism and language endangerment, so we will have a flashback on colonialism and see how that impacted languages, minority languages. And then moving on to language endangerment, what we're having here, the situation that we're facing, and how should we react about that issue. Jadi ini sifat presentasi saya ini agak berbeda ya. Ini about critical discussion. Jadi santai-santai tapi berat, gimana sih? Ya, tapi kita perlu membahas ini ya, supaya kita tahu apa yang terjadi di dunia language documentation. Ya. And then language documentation, moving on, discussing language documentation and the perpetuation of colonialism. And then we'll go over the movements in language documentation dealing with decolonialism. And I will also highlight my project, integrated my project here, that is language documentation on an endangered language in Maluku named Saparua. And then you can judge whether that's a model for a decolonized model or not. Yeah, and suggesting, the last one I'll be suggesting some, I'll give some suggestion, either both for us as local linguists doing this practice and also as foreigners, for foreigners. Okay, so let's start with colonialism and language endangerment. I want to make a disclaimer. I have no expertise in history. Yeah, obviously I learned history in school, like many of you here, probably. So I don't stand against correction. So, but then I will not go deeper into history of colonialism. But then I found this map. Yeah, Ibu bisa lihat nih peta ya. This map, do you like it? It's colorful, right? It's like beautiful, very colorful maps of the world. But not everything colorful is great, yeah? Sometimes colorful things can be dark, like this one. This is a very dark map, you know, because the color codes here represent that colonialism. So we see like our country there, Indonesia, it's green, right? But it's not because we have rice field, yeah. They're green bukan karena sawah, but because we were colonized, yeah. And then here we can match, we were colonized by the Netherlands, right? And then we see some, all these many regions here, like Australia, also the coding, they were colonized by Great Britain. Also, we have participants from India here. You could see your country, yeah, in pink. Yeah, so this is a sad map. Yeah, but I'm sorry I have to show it to you today. And then we have, I'm giving you another map. Ya, ini ada peta lagi. Ini peta apa? Yeah, this map taken from Endangered Languages Project. Yeah. We have regions of the world here, but then here now we have so many dots, yeah, and these dots are also color coded for languages and their vitalities, right? So we have like, we have so many red dots here that represent severely endangered. Jadi bahasa yang sangat terancam punah. Itu banyak banget kan, ya, di petanya, ya. Ya, itu banyak, termasuk juga including in our country. We have so many endangered languages, yeah, portrayed so in this map. So if I take the first map and the second map, now we can see how they link, right? Colonialism and language endangerment, right? Bapak Ibu bisa lihat ya, hubungannya peta pertama dengan peta kedua, ya. Jadi bisa dilihat the regions that were colonized. By the way, the map shows colonialism in the 20th century, and we can see the impact on languages like Australia, so many dots, so many severely endangered languages, and then here shows that they were colonized. Also our country for sure, we have so many dots, yeah, and then, yeah, well, like the Great Britain here, it's so tiny, right? But then what did they do to India and then the Netherlands also, yeah? So of course we can see, comparing the maps, we can see at glance the impact of colonialism, yeah? You agree? Ya, jadi itu kelihatan dari petanya. And then if I have to give you stats, ya, ini ada stats, major languages. What are major languages? We define major languages as languages that have many speakers, yeah. But then here, major languages, in fact, there aren't many of them. Jadi bahasa yang banyak penuturnya tuh jumlahnya tidak banyak di dunia, ya, cuman sedikit. See, it's like very tiny chunk of, because the numbers of languages are dominated by minor languages. Yeah, there are way more small languages compared to the major languages, and then yeah, that we major languages are defined based on the speakers' numbers, and then we see like we can spot two ex-colonizers here, right? Spain and Britain. We see that their languages have become two major languages. You see, if that makes sense, yeah. You don't see my my language. Tadi saya bilang apa? My language Sasak, yeah. But Sasak is a minority language. It's stable, but it's not dominant. Yeah, it's just small languages, part of the Orange. And then looking at the global population, we have now we have minor languages here. Tadi jumlahnya sedikit, ya. But then in terms of the speakers, yeah, these major languages have way more speakers, yeah. So meanwhile the minor languages yang tadi jumlahnya banyak itu penuturnya cuman sedikit. So we have like languages, many languages with less than 1,000 speakers. For instance, UK in West Papua, maybe anyone worked with the language here, only has 100 speakers. And then we have Nere in New Caledonia, itu di dekat-dekat mana ya, New Caledonia, Australia, di peta itu dia di atasnya. Yeah, New Caledonia itu only 50, and then some languages are extremely endangered, yeah, like Hawaiian Pidgin Sign Language, itu cuman sedikit. So now again I'm doing the same thing. What if I compare these two? Yeah, ini terlihat sama tapi beda, ya. Yeah, because now the color code switch, right? We have on the left here major languages are the blue one here, yeah, and then minor languages. So many minor languages, but then here in terms of the population, yeah, minor languages so little, cuman sedikit, and the four major languages, they dominate. Yeah, there are more others major languages, but I just show you the biggest four. Yeah. So then, after hopefully we agreed that colonialism has impacted endangered languages, worsened the situation from 16th century, yeah, in Indonesia. So let's define colonialism. Before we discuss decolonialism, we need to discuss colonialism. Now, referring to Harvard, again, I'm not an expert in history, but then let's define it here. It is generally, not universally, but commonly agreed that colonialism, we have some keywords here, is a form of domination, yeah, where individuals or groups control. So domination, control, dominating who? Controlling who? Yeah, dominating territory or action, not of themselves, but of others. Yeah, bukan mendominasi diri sendiri atau wilayah sendiri, but others. Yeah, others, indigenous land, others home, right? That results in exploitation. Yeah, including economics, but then economy is not the primary factors. Ya, Bapak Ibu tahu kalau Jepang itu motivasinya menjajah Indonesia itu bukan primarily on economy, but it was military because they were on the way to World War II. Yeah, so but then economy is one of the, but then many factors. The point is it shows exploitation, and as a result, yeah, there happen cultural changes. Yeah, it violates everything and it creates chaos, yeah, that manifesting in cultural changes, and this includes language. And of course, there's a concept of power. Who's more powerful? Yeah, even though it's not your home, but you're powerful, you just go there and take the land and do whatever you want with the people. Yeah, so it's bad. But then if we look at these keywords, yeah, we have these keywords, right? Domination, power. Well, we humans have applied this principle of colonialism long before international colonialism occurred. Jadi sebelum kita definisikan penjajahan itu, ya, sebagai mengambil ya teritori orang, ya kan? Ini sifat-sifat principles-nya itu sudah ada pada manusia sebenarnya, ya. Sometimes it's and then ya makanya apa tuh siapa Van Gogh itu, it's true when he said that the hardest art is to love humans because we have this evil side in us, right? It's not always easy to take care and love each other. And then, but because colonialism, it did not take place in a short period of time. It did not last only 1 or 2 years, you know. It lasted for centuries, right? Like in many places in Indonesia, including like in Maluku. Maluku was colonized for, 400 years. Yeah, can you imagine? 400 years. And then colonialism in Indonesia did not distribute evenly, but Maluku was one of the region that suffers the most. Like in my home island, yeah, Lombok, was colonized for 100 years, but then by the Dutch, but we were oppressed by our neighbor. Yeah, but then, yeah, the point is, it lasted so long that it leaves colonial vestige. Jadi sisa-sisa penjajahan tuh masih, ya, satu karena sifat kita juga, dan satu karena itu telah berlangsung sekian lama, ya, jadi vestige. So the perpetuation of colonialism, looking at the principles yang tadi, ya, is still found in many aspects, including in practices regarding language. Yeah. So how to identify if there's the perpetuation? Jadi perpetuation di sini apa saya artikan sebagai kepanjangan dari ya prinsip-prinsip kolonisasi itu masih dipakai ya unsur-unsurnya. That's perpetuation. So we can say if there's the perpetuation, yeah, if we found dominance, power structure, control, exploitation, yeah, in any areas, okay, that actually includes language documentation. Next, I'll discuss language endangerment. Now, what are we facing here? Why are we even in this room? Why do we need to have PR, preservasi bahasa? What's wrong with our bahasa? Kenapa perlu dipreservasi? Because we're having a critical situation, right? Bapak Ibu sadar kan? PR kita dibentuk karena situasi linguistik kita yang krisis, ya. Because we are experiencing language endangerment, yeah. So what do we say and what do we do about it? Kenapa penting? Why do I need to put why do we say? Because what do we say reflects how deep or shallow we understand, ya. Kenapa itu penting? Kita harus tahu apa yang kita katakan, ya. Because this is what I think what we miss, many of us here, is that when we deal with language, yeah, language, endangered language, we are dealing with indigenous communities. We are dealing with humans and their rights. Yeah, so we're working on a very sensitive issue. Yeah, ini kita tidak main-main, ya, bukan hanya bahasa, karena bahasa itu satu paket sama orangnya, dan orangnya yang kita bekerja bersama di sini bukan orang yang punya privilege, tapi mereka marginalized, ya, tertinggal. Nah itu. So we have to know what do we say, ya. Alright, kidding salah. And then I found this on Ethnologue. We have 704 languages. But then this is not a good figure. Why? Because 71% of our languages are endangered. 506 ya Bapak Ibu, bahasa kita itu terancam punah dari 771% kira-kira ya. Yang stable only 181. Nanti ini akan terus berubah. Kita lihat 5 tahun, 10 tahun ke depan ini akan berubah ya. And 14 reported as extinct, hilang. Ini kan akan berubah. Stable akan turun ke 506, 506-nya akan turun ke 14. So we will most probably will have more than 14 extinct languages. And I believe we have more than this, but belum terrecord ya. Now, Bapak Ibu ngapain tanggal 8 Maret? What did you do? Bekerja ya. Maybe I was stuck here in the traffic in Jakarta. But then on the March 8 last year, 3 languages died ya. Our languages, 3 of them died. Ya, ini terreport 3 bahasa Indonesia tuh punah. Ya, Tandia, Mawes, and Luhu. Right? And then the source of this article, yeah, from the report from Wikipedia, I believe, was derived from Jakarta Globe, published on the same date, March 8, 2024, where a government spokesperson listed what are those, the 11 extinct languages. Ya, jadi ini diambil dari Jakarta Globe, tanggal 8 Maret 2024. Tadi rilis bahasa-bahasa yang punah tersebut. One of them is Piru. Ya, the thing about Piru is that Piru was predicted to be extinct by James Collins. Ya, like decades before, because of the exodus and colonialism of the Dutch. Ya, it was severely endangered, and then now it happened last year. Sudah diprediksi akan punah dan benar tidak bisa bertahan. Now we have this situation. What do we say about this? Yeah, what should we say about language endangerment or extinction in Indonesia? And then first, penyebabnya apa? What caused it? Yeah, and we know what caused it. And then kita suka saling menyalahkan. So whom to blame? Yeah, if something happened, like we have to blame someone, right? I mean, part of humans. And so how to stop it? Yeah. And then the scary question that lingers in all language documentation practitioners' mind, that is it stoppable? Bisa nggak sih di stop ya? Yeah. So here, and then now, what's this? This is a slide from a webinar, international webinar, sometimes in March, yeah, where Julia Salabang is a prominent linguist. It's a real deal in language documentation, yeah, in the world. And then she posted in her presentation that article, ini artikel yang tadi ya, Bapak Ibu, mendapatkan kritik dari seorang linguist namanya Gerard Roche ya. This article is a master class in how to not say colonialism. Ya, ini Bapak Ibu kalau bahasa apa namanya? Ini bahasa Inggris ya, tapi bahasa Indonesia ini secara pragmatik ini benar-benar linguis ini bilang ini benar-benar artikelnya ini salah ya. Ini mencerminkan perpetuation, sifat-sifat penjajahan yang tadi ya. Because the interviewee there blames the speaker. Why is it that? Ya, kenapa extinct those 11 languages? Oh, karena penuturnya tidak meneruskan, tidak bicara sama anaknya, ya. Dan juga penuturnya sedikit, ya. Jadi cenderung menyalahkan penutur sehingga ini mendapat perhatian besar. So what I'm saying is, because language endangerment, our area is very sensitive, ya. The world is watching. Jadi Bapak Ibu jangan merasa bahwa dunia ini tidak melihat yang kita kerjakan. This is sensitive issue. The world is watching. So just be careful what you say in public, and then be mindful of what you do, of what we do, what you keep saying you, including me, a self-reminder. So And then, how can we say it better? First, is that we need to understand the difference between cause and result. Like, nah ini pertanyaan, reduce number of speakers, ya, penuturnya berkurang itu, is it cause or result? Bahasanya punah, mati, ya, bahasanya endangered, kenapa penutur berkurang? That is not cause, okay? That is result, ya. Seperti jangan bilang kenapa dia mati. Kalau orang kenapa dia mati, udah aja. Bukan begitu. Penyebabnya apa? Natural cause, sudah tua, ketabrak mobil, whatever, ya. So we have to have a right answer for this, ya. But then what about language policy? Cause or result, ya? We cannot wash our hands that we had a good intention of our government that we wanted to unify the nation using Indonesians. That's a very great intention, right? But then it had impacted, worsened the situation by over-imposing bahasa Indonesia. Ini kan language policy-nya had happened for so many decades. Baru-baru aja kita mulai melestarikan bahasa daerah, ya. Jadi ini language policy also had something to do. And then therefore when we deal with causes, we have to be critical, ya. For examples, yang tadi penutur tidak passing their language, ya. But then the question, why parents do not pass their language to the children? Kenapa, ya? Now we need to ask question like, is the language equals to power? Those 11 languages were spoken in eastern part of Indonesia. Now we compare in terms of power, yeah. Which one? West or east that are more, have more better system, The West, of course, right? So our fellows from the East, they struggle more, and then their power, their languages are impacted. And then now, because of globalization, karena globalisasi. Ini kan common answers, ya. Kenapa globalisasi? But then we need to see that globalization makes us victims, makes indigenous communities as victims. Like I could pursue my education, right? I could participate in global academia, yeah, got my PhD in the US. But then, did I have a choice? Do I have a choice but to speak English, right? My English is this English, whatever, But yeah, I'm saying I'm a victim of globalization because I have no choice. Ambil Bapak Ibu kalau mau Q1, Q2, Skopis, emang bisa bahasa Bugis? Nggak bisa, ya kan? So we don't have a choice. So what I'm saying is, for this part of my talk is, never ever blame indigenous speakers. Ya, kita tidak boleh menyalahkan indigenous speakers. And that's my mad face. If I'm mad, I look like that. No, scarier. But then, because no one wakes up in the morning and decide to give up their language. Nggak ada orang, today I'm going to give up my language. I don't want to speak it. That's not the case, yeah? So what should we do? Yeah, what do we do? I'm offering a different approach. Yeah, this one is not very sciencey, it's not scholarly. Karena kita berpikir bagaimana apa yang kita lakukan itu kita pikir harus ilmiah, ya. But then because of the problem, the cause of the problem is so complex, it's not enough. We have to start it on a social level, ya, as humans, ya. Karena penyebabnya itu on humans level, ya. Penyebab utamanya humans level. So we need to raise their self-esteem. So here we can like approach them and encourage them. Like apalagi sekarang nih Bapak Ibu banyak dari daerah ya, itu maksud saya. But no one ever asks me, bahasanya apa dari Lombok, Sasak. So because we have to raise their self-esteem, yeah. And that can change their language attitudes. I believe many of you here work with language attitudes, yeah, including myself. But then the thing about language attitudes, ini kita perlu pertanyakan ya, hasil dari language attitude studies. Yeah, because the results of language attitude study are almost like black and white, most of them, especially in Indonesia. Either penuturnya positifnya 100% positive, yeah, or negative, yeah. But then, in fact, language attitudes ini stem from psychology. Ya, ini ada psychology. Bisa tanya, ya. So, when it deals with psychology, language attitude is something inside that is not observed. It's not surface. So we're measuring something underneath, yeah, the current, and then we see how is that reflected. So that's not easy. Therefore, in fact, it's almost always paradoxical. Jadi harus kita pertanyakan, tidak mungkin dia 100% positif. Kalau positif, kenapa bahasanya terus endangered, ya kan? Pasti ada something di sana. Karena language, karena attitude itu sendiri itu tidak mudah terlihat kan, dari dalam terjadinya ya. Okay, and then for action level, language documentation and revitalization. Now let's see, I'm going to discuss this. Emergency situation. What's the emergency? So Michael Cross, stock linguist at LSA Linguistic Society of America. These are like the biggest conference in the U.S. Been there once, like so big. Claiming that 90% of the world languages will go extinct by 2100. Yeah, but then a common agreement is that the percentage should fall between 45 to 50%. But this is still big. Yeah, tadi if we have like 7,000 and 3,000 will disappear by the end of this century, you know, that's like, wow. So linguists, in the US, in the world, maybe they put aside their syntax tree, they keep growing anyway, right? And then they started saving languages, including our keynote speakers for tomorrow, Nicholas Himmelman. He introduced a notion of language documentation as a separate field of linguistics, that is different from language documentation. Nah, ini. So language documentation, according to Himmelman, is he counts that all language practices, you know, they are also worthy of their own science. Yeah, there can be some description, but it's just up to enough to make the recordings meaningful. Yeah. But then early times of language documentation tend to be seen as a masih seperti metodologi, methodological practice centered on creation, durable, multi-purpose records of language. So practice-nya in the past is like collect more data, collect more languages, and then archive, and then we use the collection for many purposes. But then, in the praxis, it reflects Western linguistic framework. Jadi sistemnya masih Barat, excluding cultural context. So what the communities want, and how do they use their language, you know, they're not like really addressed, in the approach. And then languages and speakers are seen as separate entities, where speakers were seen as data factory. Linguists just wanted more data. We gotta save your languages, but it has nothing to do with you. It has only to do with your language. And then linguists have controlling powers towards the project. So early language documentation practice reinforces colonialism. Ini masih ada sifat-sifat kolonisasinya. But then, tapi sekarang, what about now, the practice now? What about recent language documentation practice? That still perpetuate colonialism. Yang sekarang, yang kita lakukan sekarang, yang scholars lakukan juga, di luar itu, The short answer is yes. I dare to say it's yes, yeah. Because here, let's refer to this study. There are many studies cited here in different years, yeah. Language documentation practices can often also impose, yeah, imposing colonial norms of analyzing language in ways that misalign, apa yang saya highlight, with needs and values of indigenous communities. So linguists, yeah, they still dominate. There's like imbalance between the authority and power whose needs are met, yeah. Yeah, who owns more power, and then whose needs are met, and then now this one, this is critical, yeah. Language documentation has archive as part of it, right? But then do the indigenous community speakers have access to the archive? You know, who access it? And then do they know how to access it? You know, and then who use the archives? Because especially in Indonesia, I don't think, like, I don't know, but to what I know is that indigenous communities whose languages are archived, yeah, by foreign scholars, mostly, they don't use the materials. They're only used by foreign scholars, you know, only, or scholars, but not by the indigenous community. So this is a big homework for us linguists. Ini susah kalau temenan ya. Is it possible that bagaimana praktis di Indonesia, perpetuating or not? So factors to consider, ya. Language documentation, ya, walaupun sudah diperkenalkan lebih dari 20 tahun lalu oleh Pak Nicholas, ya, it's still a new field, ya kan? In Indonesia, this is still a new field. And we Indonesians, ya, you can say I'm wrong, but I think we are educated about colonialism in traditional way. I have lived in two systems. Yeah, I lived in the U.S. I know their systems, and then I know how they discuss about history and colonialism. Yeah, but we here, kita belajar sejarah apa sih? I have a son who's in high school. Itu tidak banyak berubah. Ngapalin aja siapa, tahun berapa. Yeah, but there is no internalization. Yeah, we don't get the feeling that we were colonized. We don't get the hurt feeling. It's more like memorizing. Yeah, but out there it's different. You know, saya pernah punya mahasiswa ya, ketika presentasi tuh menangis di Hawaii. Ya, Gen Z menangis karena dia presentasikan tentang penjajahan. Ya, itu menangis karena beda di sana. Cara diedukasinya berbeda, tidak menghafal tapi internalisasi. And then there's no, have you ever have this discussion, yeah, of colonial vestige in terms of principles? Yeah, not likely. Because we have one today. And yeah, but in the U.S., in the West, it's like very common. Therefore, I personally hope foreign scholars working with indigenous communities in Indonesia should be aware of this, and that they should act in a way that refrains the perpetuation to happen, because you're dealing with people who are not really educated in the right way about colonialism. So they don't understand if there's a perpetuation or not happening. Now, I have this question, strong question. Maybe I may get some hate. Could you or we possibly perpetuate colonialism in documenting indigenous languages in Indonesia? Ya, apakah kita ataukah you, by you I mean foreign scholars, ya, linguists, kita sebagai linguist, jangan-jangan kita juga melakukan ini, ya, ataukah scholars di luar juga yang bekerja Indonesia melakukan ini? Well, sorry, I have to say I think yes, based on my experience, yeah, it's yes. So you, foreign scholars may have done the perpetuation of colonialism if, yeah, you're not doing any community building. As a privileged party individuals, yeah. If you have something to share, you must give it, because they give you their language to studies that are very valuable to you. So there should be some sharing. Ya, and then if you take advantage of politeness to act privilege. Ini saya kasih contoh ya Bapak Ibu, bukan saya menghayal-hayal, tapi ini kejadian beneran ya. Ini beberapa kejadian, misalnya 2018 ya. There was this speaker, like very prominent scholar, you know, who was presenting and I was moderating. And then he did not want to be stopped. And then in our conference, but that was not my indigenous island, you know. It happened long ago, but it's still fresh in my mind, you know, because he did not want to be stopped while he was welcomed with such a huge welcoming, and then everyone must push the presentation schedule. Ini kalau jangan macam-macam sama Risa ya, berani lewat waktu, ya. But then the same individuals then presented in their system, in their country, in his country. And then he stopped. When he was moderating, he stopped the speaker because time is up. But then why couldn't he use this, adhere to the system in our country while he adhere to his system in his country? You know, ini kan beda. Jadi jangan salah, jangan menyalahgunakan kesopanan kita. Ya, kita sopan, tapi kita ngenes juga dalam hati. Ya, nah, ini yang foreigners harus tahu itu. And not acknowledge that this indigenous land helps boost your academic career. Yeah. So yeah, you build your academics, yeah, your career from this land, from this indigenous land. So you cannot just say, I come here to save your language. And then you cannot just treat speakers as data factory, because I also found this, these people, they just want money. Where this your 50,000 can go, it does not last long, you know. 50,000 does not last long, but your data, the data that you get from speakers, you take it to conferences, you know, transfer it to papers. It lasts so long, yeah. So don't say that, it's bad. And then force indigenous communities to use Western system. Like many, okay. And then, yeah, so some other things. And then as us also, we could have done the perpetuation if we, ini juga act patronizing, ya, ini kita jangan harus mengakui kalau kita itu mendapatkan manfaat dari mereka juga, dari data. Yeah, and then we have to listen, not only record, but listen to their stories. And then we have to include them in academic discussion. If they're not so far away, why not we invite them? Yeah, I invited my speakers yesterday. And as a local scholar, we tend to devalue. Nah ini yang perlu ya, devalue our fellow local scholars who do the same work, ya. And then we tend to look up more to the foreign scholars. Ini jangan sampai, ya. And then now moving on to the colonial movement, we see that apa itu decolonial movement and language documentation? It comes from the idea that language belongs to its speakers, and then we linguists are curators. Jadi language itu bukan bahasa, itu bukan punya kita hanya sebagai curators, ya. Therefore, speakers must have agency in the project. They have some rights. They have things to say, yeah, they have the rights to do that. And then, yeah, it should be for the community. Now, definition here, the undoing of the effect of colonialism. That's what decolonialism is, ya. Jadi yang tadi power itu harus undo. So, decolonization in land doc means respecting indigenous perspectives and then valuing indigenous knowledge system, challenging colonial methodologies, and then empowering communities. Yeah, at least people to. But then the good thing, shifts are taking place. Jadi di luar ya, Bapak Ibu ini tolong diperhatikan. Itu sudah movement ini sudah berlangsung, sudah dilakukan ya. Giving indigenous communities power, ya, memberikan mereka agency itu sudah berlangsung. Ya, salah satunya dengan kolaborasi, ya. Salah satu caranya yaitu dengan kolaborasi. Nah, I just want to highlight very quick.
Okay, I'm so sorry, Ibu.
3 more minutes.
No, I mean we have a question and answer session. I'm so sorry for disturbing you.
Okay, I adhere to the system.
All right, thank you.
But then I'll just, as she's speaking, I'll just go over my slides, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. This is my, I mean, you can raise your hand, right? This is my project. 1 minute. We're fellow Indonesian, give me time.
Okay.
This one. This is my project, yeah. And then Saparua is an endangered language. And here, blah, blah, blah. I think we mentioned about Saparua before. But I think I want to, this is our archive. Archive in LR, ini sudah di archive ya. Tapi caranya sekarang why? Because it's collaborative, ya. I reach out and it's collaborative, and then we empower the community. And also the training, we provide training that really helps the collaboration and give agency to the speakers. Here, ini ada trainingnya, and then we have, yeah, so we are, I just want to say it's very important, we're thankful to our speakers because our second year of funding has been granted because of their participation. But there are some grounds that we, that we're dealing here, like some challenges ya. Jadi ada juga challenge-nya.
Okay, udah?
Yeah, ask question.
Okay, thank you. Maybe give applause for our speakers. Okay, thank you Bu Nisa. Jadi dari penjelasan Ibu Khairunisa kita bisa ini menyentuh sensitivitas kita sebagai peneliti, terutama peneliti preservasi bahasa ya. Ternyata dengan perspektif yang lain kita bisa meninjau dari perspektif penutur. Jangan-jangan kita yang sudah mengklaim, terutama mungkin Bapak Ibu peneliti terkait tentang endangered languages ya, bahasa terancam punah sudah mengklaim secara tidak langsung bahasa itu punah. Padahal itu melalui tulisan ya. Jadi kita harus hati-hati, kita harus meninjau terlebih dahulu. Ternyata dari jejak misalnya Google Scholar atau misalnya dari Scopus Bapak Ibu, ternyata itu yang diklaim oh itu udah punah. Padahal masih tetap eksis. Jadi kita sebagai peneliti harus hati-hati, kita tinjau juga dari sisi penutur. Nah, ini juga menjadi hal yang baru ya, cukup menyentuh juga kita sebagai peneliti. Baik, akan ada sesi tanya jawab. Mungkin ada yang ingin bertanya dari ruangan ini, Bapak Ibu? Baik, dari Bapak. Oke. Mungkin ada. Oke, please. Oke, time is yours, Pak.
Terima kasih Bu Khairunisa, itu cukup menarik itu ya presentasinya. Nah, saya khawatir tentang ada banyak bahasa yang terancam punah seperti yang Ibu berbicara bahwa sampai tahun 2100 hampir.
Dari mana Bapak? Mungkin sebutkan dulu dan oke, sudah.
Ya, jadi Ibu berbicara bahwa sampai tahun 2100 kira-kira 90% bahasa akan jadi terancam punah, itu yang punah. Itu sayang ya untuk generasi yang berikutnya, karena kalau satu bahasa yang menjadi punah, cerita, sejarah, adat istiadat semuanya disappear itu ya, sama sekali. Jadi generasi baru tidak bisa mengerti, tidak bisa tahu apa asal usulnya, karena tidak ada bahasa yang sudah menjadi punah. Nah, kalau di India, politik bahasa nasional itu sama sekali kurang efektif ya, karena banyak agitasi melawan bahasa nasional dan begitu. Bagaimana di pemerintah Indonesia memang ada kebijakan untuk memprioritaskan bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Inggris dipromosikan sebagai bahasa untuk ilmu, dan bahasa daerah juga perlu dipelihara. Tapi bagaimana, apakah bahasa yang terancam punah itu dipakai sebagai bahasa pengantar di prasekolah atau di tingkat dasar, karena itu saja satu cara dan upaya bahwa bahasa yang terancam punah dapat diselamatkan dari itu. Jadi apakah ada dokumentasi atau langkah-langkah yang diambil pemerintah untuk memelihara dan melestarikan, mempreservasi bahasa yang terancam punah itu?
Ya, baik, terima kasih.
Baik,
You get
terima
the
kasih.
idea? Oke.
Ya,
Terima kasih,
makanya
Bapak.
tadi saya bilang language policies di Indonesia itu sudah mulai berubah ya. Makanya salah satu upayanya sekarang kita ini ada pusat riset, ini government show kan, pusat riset preservasi bahasa dan sastra. Jadi kita punya kami di sini scholars ini mulai melakukan dokumentasi bahasa-bahasa yang terancam punah. Tapi karena ini masih sifatnya baru ya, jadi ini masih in the making. But we are collecting data for now, and then we see that in some schools, in some regions, they incorporate bahasa daerah, as local content, but it's not. They don't function as language instruction, but then they are taught at school. They're taught at school, but ini belum rata. Ya, karena makanya saya tadi bilang itu ada konsekuensi language policy kita yang dulu yang terlalu bahasa Indonesia, tapi sekarang sudah mulai ada gerakan. It's a big homework, whether they're stoppable or not, I don't know. I think we're dealing with the same issues in India ya di India juga, apalagi di India you're competing between English and Hindi and other languages too, ya. Iya, nggak boleh.
Bahasa penjajah yang menjadi pembunuh bahasa-bahasa lain, itu yang penting di mana-mana di negara-negara yang dijajah ini. Itu yang perlu diatasi.
Yeah, great point. Thank you. And these
Ada
are
lagi
some
Bapak
my
Ibu mungkin
suggestion ya.
pertanyaan, mungkin dari ruang Zoom, apakah ada pertanyaan atau di ruang ini? Jadi memang perspektifnya jangan karena penuturnya tidak bisa mewariskan ke anaknya, jangan mengblame ya. Tapi kita melihat secara perspektif yang lain, mungkin historical ya, Bu Khairunisa ya, dari aspek-aspek yang lain. Oke, ada pertanyaan lagi? Oke, silakan.
Ya, kalau saya bisa, sorry. Lagi saya tidak bisa angkat tangan. saya
Baik,
sudah tahu.
maaf Prof, nanti setelah Kal ya Prof ya.
Oke, baik.
Oke, baik silakan Kal.
Terima kasih. Saya pikir talk ini sangat penting, mungkin bisa dianggap bersejarah. Kita lihat betapa penting obrolan ini. Sebagai pengakuan, saya pernah perpetuate colonialism dalam linguistik dan saya sebetulnya berusaha berubah dari pola itu dan saya minta bantuan dari orang Indonesia untuk tetap berubah. Pertanyaan saya, satu komen dari Sil, ada lokakarya perencanaan bahasa kita yang sudah puluhan kali dilakukan di Indonesia dan cukup berhasil meningkat kesadaran komunitas lokal terhadap mereka. Nah, Anda pernah melakukan lokakarya seperti itu untuk meningkat kesadaran lokal dan bagaimana hasilnya setelah itu?
Ya, baik, terima kasih. You get the point. Penekanannya pada apa?
Ya, lokakarya atau kesadaran komunitas lokal terhadap penting bahasa
tidak.
mereka.
Okay, before I say something wrong, I just returned home in 2022. And I just, ini saya baru join ya, Kal ya. Jadi sebelum itu saya belum terlalu mengamati. Ya, mungkin teman-teman yang di sini lebih tahu, tapi yang selama saya pulang yang sampai sekarang yang saya tahu itu lokal karya yang mengajak indigenous communities-nya ya, like sitting together ya. To my knowledge, I don't think so. Yeah, but I've been gone for so long, so but then, yeah, from 2022 to now, I don't see. Yeah, to my knowledge, I don't know if we have any. Yeah, good point though. Yeah, it should be done like that. Thank you.
Jadi ada insight ya Bapak kalau nanti untuk selanjutnya. Mohon maaf Pak Joni, kita sudah dapat dari Zoom sebentar ya. Dari Prof Antonia silakan.
Ya, maaf saya agak terlambat jadi akhirnya saya di rumah, nanti saya join kalian di sana. Ya, ini menarik sekali Nisa, dan juga topik seperti ini selalu perlu dikedepankan. Satu pertanyaan adalah, kenapa Anda pakai bahasa Inggris dan saya orang asing memakai bahasa Indonesia? Mungkin ini menarik juga. Satu, dua, kita bicara tentang pentingnya bahasa ibu. Saya pikir bahwa presentasi ini bagus sekali, tapi mungkin harus sedikit lebih menekankan bahwa kolonialisme tidak hanya dilakukan dari luar ke dalam, tapi dari dalam sendiri ke dalam diri sendiri. Anda hanya sedikit-dikit bicara tentang polisi bahasa, memang ini masalahnya di Indonesia, tapi juga polisi yang dilakukan di level pendidikan. Jadi mungkin kami kaum linguis harus lebih banyak bicara dengan orang yang ada di pemerintah daerah, dari misalnya Kementerian Pendidikan. Karena masalahnya adalah kalau ibu-ibu tidak memakai bahasa dia kepada anaknya, itu karena selama beberapa puluhan tahun ada stigma terhadap memakai bahasa lokal kepada anak-anak di ruang kelas. Jadi ini mungkin kita harus mulai melihat dari dalam diri sendiri masalahnya, kenapa bahasa daerah, dan saya bicara tentang situasi di Indonesia. Masalah seperti ini sebenarnya terjadi di mana-mana. Tapi kalau ada stigma terhadap bahasa lokal di negeri sendiri, ya ini postkolonialisme yang diperpetuate di negeri sendiri. Bahwa ada orang asing yang memang mencoba membuat studi tentang bahasa di sini, ya saya setuju. Mungkin lebih banyak kita harus konsentrasi pada mengembalikan sesuatu yang berguna untuk masyarakat daripada membuat tulisan keren di Scopus. Ini masalahnya juga, tugas juga. Ya, dengan misalnya untuk meningkat karir kita harus tulis, dan ini lebih di Indonesia daripada di luar, untuk Scopus 1, Scopus 2, Scopus 3, dan lain sebagainya. Ini mungkin semuanya perpetuate konsep kolonialisme. Jadi kita coba lihat juga kritis terhadap apa yang terjadi pada diri sendiri. Ya, jadi mungkin harus lebih proaktif untuk ambil alih di dalam tempat-tempat yang stakeholders yang ada kepentingan di level lebih rendah. Jadi bukan hanya di level linguis, di level lebih rendah, misalnya di pendidikan dasar.
Oke, baik. Jadi ada pertanyaan Ibu, apa hanya cuma menanggapi saja?
Saya bisa
Prof?
tanggapin juga.
Oke, baik. Bu Nisa silakan.
Baik, terima kasih ya. Jadi memang ini big homework, either from individual levels, either from the internal societies level, either from the foreign scholarly whatever levels. But yeah, it's a big homework. It's not easy to do. But then as I use the word you and we here, one thing that we can do is on collaboration. That's why here, maybe on the Zoom, you can see that I have some suggestion for how we can collaborate. So I strongly suggest foreign scholars working on language documentation in Indonesia to start collaborate with us from scratch. Yeah, so you can trust us enough to make something from scratch, not just come here with a ready project. Yeah, because that is more meaningful, and then it can really help community building, that we can work together, and then we have somewhere similar agency in the project, yeah, together with the speech community, and then that can also fulfill the needs between local scholars who need publications, ya harus Scopus 1, Scopus 2. Ini kalau lebih bersabar sedikit, everyone here has the potential to do that if we are given a chance. But I like to suggest let's start collaboration from scratch. Like my project on Saparua, Leah and I wrote the proposal, so we started from scratch. Yeah, and I believe even we have some, but yeah, yes, a lot of us here have potential to write grant proposal, but it will be beneficial for both, because under the nature of international grants, it will be more powerful if we have collaborators from local scholars too. Yeah. Ya, tapi memang PR untuk semua.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih Bu Nisa. Mungkin satu pertanyaan terakhir ya Bapak Joni, silakan. Terakhir.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih
Singkat saja
Mbak
Bapak
Nisa,
minta tolong ya. Singkat
generasi
saja.
yang hebat. Konsepnya adalah politik bahasa dan perencanaan bahasa yang baik. Koordinasi antara Badan Bahasa, BRIN, dan koordinator yang membidangi Kementerian Bidang Bahasa. Jadi saya itu sejak lama, mungkin teman-teman yang di sini yang migrasi dari Badan Bahasa ini, kalau melihat kayak gini gregetan itu, karena memang orang-orang yang migrasi dari Badan Bahasa ke BRIN itu sampai sekarang sudah tidak dilibatkan lagi dengan proyek prestisius dengan pemetaan kekerabatan bahasa-bahasa daerah di Indonesia. Bahkan setengahnya mati suri. Sejak dulu saya adalah sekretaris pemetaan bahasa-bahasa daerah di Indonesia. Kalau menurut sejarah kan pemetaan bahasa di dunia itu kan terus-menerus longitudinal. Tapi di kita dihentikan karena itu proyek prestisius yang harganya mahal. Padahal kita tahun 2006 ini, kita di Papua, di seluruh Indonesia itu dibayar dengan harga mahal, bahkan kita ada namanya asuransi.
Baik
Setelah
Bapak,
itu
maaf
tidak
singkat
asuransi.
saja Pak.
Jadi intinya bagus model-model kita tidak boleh mengklaim bahwa ini bahasa punah. Kita sudah melaksanakan itu. Tinggal bagaimana antara Badan Bahasa, BRIN, dan koordinator yang mengenai ini bisa bekerja sama, dan juga kerjasama proyek internasional agar proyek pemetaan bahasa-bahasa daerah, terutama bahasa-bahasa daerah ini yang hampir punah ini segera dilaksanakan kembali. Termasuk kami juga sudah melaksanakan namanya pengembangan laboratorium kebinekaan. Sekarang pun kami sudah tidak tahu bagaimana pengembangannya. Itulah di Indonesia, unik, menarik, dan itu adalah menjadi problem kita semuanya. Dan ini semoga ini menjadi bahan rekomendasi dari seminar. Jadi bukan hanya seminar omon-omon, tapi menjadi bahan rekomendasi ke depan agar koordinasi ini antar lini itu bisa dilaksanakan dengan baik. Sebenarnya bukan barang harga mahal, tapi kalau kita mau dan bersetuju, insya Allah bisa dilaksanakan. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mungkin mau ditanggapi sedikit
Ya, itu
aja
bagus
Mbak Nisa
sekali
ya.
ya, sedikit. Moderatornya strike banget. Ya, sedikit aja saya tambahin ya, itu bagus sekali poinnya tadi, tapi saya tambahkan juga kolaborasi ini intinya talk saya ini Pak, advocating indigenous communities. Jadi kolaborasi ini juga kita harus bagaimana indigenous community itu yang bahasanya kita dokumentasikan itu bisa berperan lebih aktif, bisa lebih di-empower lagi. Ya, sifatnya mereka bisa punya kontrol. Jadi misalnya kalau di dokumentasi project saya itu mereka bisa memutuskan apa yang mau didokumentasiin, apa mau direkam. Awalnya kami dari LDP dimintanya banyak kan elicitation, tapi ternyata bahasanya sudah sangat terancam punah. Penuturnya maunya recordingnya conversation. Akhirnya kami punya conversation. Akhirnya apa? Karena ini kami memberikan agency ke community-nya ya di Saparua, kami nego ke ILDP. Kami tidak punya rekaman banyak elisitasi karena penuturnya sebagai kolaborator nih maunya conversation. Akhirnya kami lebih punya banyak rekaman tentang conversation daripada elisitasi, karena itu yang tadi agency and decolonization. Ya, salah satunya.
Ya, baik. Jadi melibatkan suara dari penutur gitu ya Mbak Nisa ya. Jadi melibatkan sebagai collaborator selain dari stakeholder, penutur, kemudian dia punya power sendiri mau diapakan nih bahasa ini untuk mau merekam apanya. Nah, seperti itu Pak. Jadi jangan sesuai dengan yang sebelumnya peneliti saja, tapi kita juga mendengarkan dari sisi si penuturnya. Mau diapakan rekaman ini, dokumentasinya untuk mau diapakan, bentuknya seperti apa. Misalnya seperti itu. Jadi itu yang maksudnya gitu. Jadi menyuarakan dari sisi si penuturnya, terutama untuk endangered languages. Mungkin itu ya. Bisa saya rangkum. Baik, terima kasih. Cukup menegangkan, cukup karena melihat dari berbagai perspektif ya. Oke. Baik, karena waktunya sudah habis. Baik, saya tutup pembahasan untuk hari ini. Karena sudah dibuka dengan pantun, jadi mau tidak mau harus ditutup dengan pantun ya. Warna putih si biri-biri. Aduh lemes banget. Sebentar lagi coffee break, oke? Warna putih si biri-biri. Dia dijual, diambil bulunya. Diskusi ini kami akhiri. Terima kasih atas perhatiannya. Oke, terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih. Tetap di sini dulu Ibu Khairunisa. Kita beri penghargaan kepada Ibu Khairunisa. Mohon Ibu Ketua Karli Sejarah Sastra